Kyle, how are you?
Hey, Ian. I am well. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Appreciate it. So, how's it looking this upcoming week? Are you really busy?
This week, yeah, I'm putting together two courses and getting my book launched and got a few podcast interviews. So I am going along, that's for sure.
We'll talk more about that. So, in a few minutes, just tell me about yourself and what you do.
Yes, so I am a leadership and mindset coach. I work with small business owners, typically 5 to 25 employees, and they are often frustrated, confused, and flatlined with their business and potentially with their leadership as well, where they're just feeling a bit stuck, let's call it. They're feeling very stuck. And my job is to come in and go, okay, what's going on here? What are your leadership strengths? What's going on in your business? Let's figure out some systems. And we start to unravel all that and make it so it doesn't repeat itself. We step from where they are and we get to this other level that they didn't even know existed. And that's a lot of the work that I'm doing with my clients.
So, how did you start?
Yeah, man. So I was a kinesiology major in college. You know what kinesiology is? Have you heard that term before?
I have. I remember knowing what it is in college, but
Yeah, so exercise science, most people know what that term is. So physical therapy or physical education was my path, and that ended up not being my path, and not for the lack of like fit or effort, but it just I didn't want to do it. And I remember my senior year sitting at my desk talking to my parents on the phone, and I was a mess. I was lost and confused. I was 30 pounds overweight. I was super stressed because I was behind in school and I didn't know what I was going to do. It was like that, oh my gosh, I got to step into real life now. And I got a phone call from a friend after talking to my parents, and he's like, hey, man, there's a job opportunity that I think you'd be a good fit for. And I said, okay, what is this thing? And it was a job to work at a men's mentoring program. And so, long story short, I remember driving to the property and walking up to the front door of this farmhouse on this beautiful, idyllic setting, green grass, American flag, just rolling green hills, beautiful. I walk in and I meet the president and I meet the director, and they interview me for like an hour and a half. And at the end of the interview, Jack, the president, says, hey, do you want the job? I'm like, well, I don't know. You just talked to me, but that was spinning around in my head. But my answer was, I feel like I'm being pushed down. I was sitting on a couch. I felt like I was being pushed down onto the couch I was sitting in, like I belonged there. And so I said yes. What that meant for me was I'd be moving out of the apartment I was living in. I'd be moving in with these guys that are 18 and 25, drug and alcohol histories and lost in life. And I would help them get their lives back on track. And it was a year-long commitment. So there I go. I graduate college, and then I move in. And for the next 9 years, I played various roles in that organization. We ran a business within it. So I ran that for 3 years. And then I ran the program for about, I think it was 4 years. So during that 8+ year window, I was mentored the whole time by the president of the program, who had run 30 different businesses successfully. So I got my MBA in this program and then got to apply it directly to the program. And that was a big, there's more to the story, but I'll stop there. That was the start of what got me to where I am now.
awesome. Awesome. So, how long have you been in the business having your own practice?
I've been doing coaching for a little over 4.5 years now. And during that program, I coached for about 9 years. So I was coaching kind of a different swath or group of people, but I coached for about 9 years in there. Took a break, failed two businesses. We could talk about those later, but failed two businesses, and then started this one as a result of moving to the Pacific Northwest and wanting to apply the skills that I learned into this industry. But yeah, 4.5 years of coaching clients and watching lives change in really cool ways.
So, what draws you to this industry?
People. I love people, and I love mindset, and I love brains and minds. We are so powerful. It is unbelievable how powerful we are in terms of what we can do with our minds and what we can do when we can harness that. And for some people, that means make a ton of money. For other people, that means just being content in their life. For other people, that means raising a family well. But regardless, I love to be able to help people harness that and understand themselves more deeply. And that produces fantastic results for them. But if you are in your own, let's just say, niche of life where you fit and it's for you, then everyone else around you is impacted very positively in significant ways. And so not only are you becoming healthier in your own world in the way that fits you best, everyone else around you that's also happening to them, and you're creating hope for them, and you're changing people's lives as a result. So for me, I get to change people's lives because let me say it differently. I get to watch people's lives change because of the efforts they're putting in through the coaching that we're doing.
So to teach these concepts, I would assume that you have to embody them in your own life. Have you always thought this way, or did this come over time, right?
I think a lot of this was embedded in me, but it wasn't in fruition until I started to study it. I used to work as an HR director for a big mega church, 3,000 attendees and 100 employees. It was a lot of people. And during that time, I got the opportunity to read about different personality types and do trainings on those and read several different books and really get into the HR world, which is people. As a result, I realized, hey, I should start this business. So I started the business, and within 2-3 months of starting the business, I probably gained 40 IQ points. Like, there was just something about having the freedom to think and not have someone else think for me, not have someone else tell me the way that I'm supposed to do my work or exactly what I'm supposed to do. And this isn't always the case for everybody. Just because you work for someone doesn't mean you're being held back. But for me, it was. And when I stepped into my own job, my own business, all of a sudden, I just became smarter. And not that I'm some brilliant guy or anything, but I just became smarter because I had the freedom to think, and I started to see what was already embedded in me and was already starting to happen with these habits and mindsets and behaviors. And then I was able to go, oh, that's what that is. Oh, that's what that is. And obviously eventually put it into a book. But that was the process for me. I needed that catalytic moment of not having anybody over me. And for me, that's what worked really well. For others, it might be different, but that was the key for me.
What do you think is the biggest hindrance to people starting their own businesses or already in the business? Maybe it's a mindset or an action that brings them down.
Yeah, I believe we all stand on the shoulders of other people. And often, let me see if this is an accurate statement. Let's just say 90%. 90% of my clients are too focused on what they can do, and they forget the people around them, right? So they have employees, but they forget the power of the people around them, and they don't empower those people in a way that ultimately helps everybody involved. That's the biggest hindrance. And even if you're a solopreneur, you need a dozen or so people around you to make your business work. Maybe it's an accountant, maybe it's a webmaster, maybe it's a marketing person, whatever. But you need those people, even if they're only advisors and you're not actually paying them, you're just having conversations with them. People try to go about it on their own, and then they feel like an imposter because they don't know what they're doing. If you just get that support, paid or not paid, that's going to make a huge difference for people. And bottom line, that's what I've seen with my clients. Part of the reason why they're hiring me and why I advise them to find other people to support them in the process too.
Wonderful. So what are some of your biggest accomplishments within your business so far? And then also in your personal life?
Yeah, accomplishments are interesting. I would say on the financial end, I'll talk about that first, but financial end, I have a client that just recently told me, I worked with her for 6 months, and then the contract was up, and I felt like, wow, what did I do for her? Did I actually help her do anything? And I felt pretty beat up about that. I felt pretty bad. Well, long story short, we did a lot, because she, for the first time in the history of running her business for over 20 years, she's right now, today's the end of August, she's right now in Italy on a 4-week vacation. She's never taken an extended vacation before. And she has someone that she's paying to run the business while she's gone. So she actually has a business instead of a job that she calls a business. That was a huge accomplishment. I have I mean, I could tell you a bunch of stories, but another one was I had a one-time conversation with this gentleman and he was really stuck. He was feeling like an imposter. And I challenged him with that. And I said, what is really going on here? And boils it down to his system wasn't where he wanted it to be when it came to this marketing plan that he had for that he wanted to sell to other companies. And so we figured that out a little bit more. This is all an hour-long phone call. We've got this figured out, got it dialed in, and I challenged him to reach out to one of the local construction companies to pitch this to them. So the next day, he emails me and says, I did the pitch and I won the contract, $50,000 contract. So he went from being in his head and stuck and not being like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't believe I could do this, blah, blah, blah. We figure that out. He pitches it and he makes $50,000, right? 1 hour conversation. So there's the extremes, right? The one-off and then the long-term benefit. But to me, financially, that's what I've seen done. For me personally, I quit my job and started this and have been able to sustain it. But more importantly, my wife quit her job and is now working with me. And she was a nurse, and nurses get paid really well. And so now we're running off of my business without anything else, and it's working. So that's a really big accomplishment to me. But the most important, biggest accomplishment is the freedom that I'm giving myself and the clients that I work with so that they can be with their families when they want to be. I can be with my family when I want to be and hang out and do activities with that type of freedom. So that's the big one, man. That's the huge one for me.
Wonderful. That's wonderful that your wife is able to do that as well.
Yeah. So cool. I when I first started the business, I said, I want to unemploy my wife. That was the stated goal. It took 4 years, but I unemployed her. So that was an accomplishment for sure.
So how do you do your marketing? Or when you started, I assume you didn't really have a referral base. So when you started, how did you, get the ball rolling?
The first client I ever had was a petroleum engineering company here where I live. And it was so far over my head, I was not qualified, right? But I knew the dude. And so I asked him and I said, hey, can I do a workshop for you guys? And it's a personality behavioral workshop. And to keep the story short, I did assessments on everybody, met with each of them one-to-one over the phone or Zoom or whatever. And that went well. And then I met in their offices with like half the team in the office and half the team tell it, they did the phone in. That was a complete disaster. Hour and a half long conversation. I basically just sweated the whole time. And it was a complete dumpster fire. I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't think they got anything out of it. From that, though, I learned a tremendous amount about how you can make mistakes and learn from them a ton. And at the same time, even when you screw it up, there's so much opportunity to still interact with those people and still create other referrals and other opportunities. So from there was that confidence boost that I needed. Even though I screwed it up royally, I needed that experience. And from there, I started to do networking with a bunch of people, have conversations with them. And fundamentally, the way that I get clients is I ask. I find someone that I'd like to coach, have a conversation with them to learn a little bit more about them, ask them if they want coaching. That's it. I'll get referrals now, of course, as well, but I still have to ask that person. You ask for the sale, but that has been it for me. I've got a podcast and I do social media and all that stuff, but I've got my percentages over on a dashboard over here and I could tell you those, but fundamentally it's referrals and me asking. Those are the two. That's it. That's what works.
Awesome. What are some of the most challenging obstacles that you faced when you started your business?
Yeah, imposter. I'm in an industry where there's this notion that you have to have decades of experience as an executive that's run a multi-billion-dollar industry or not industry business or multi-million-dollar industry or ran 6 businesses and blah, blah, blah. I don't have that experience. I was hardly ever in the corporate world, but I'm not coaching corporate people. And I had 2 failed businesses of the 4 that I run. So it's like, what do I have to offer? But over time, what I realized is it's not about me. It's about them and their potential. And if I can do a great job of pulling out their potential, it sounds corny, but it really is the truth.
Oh, it doesn't. It's real.
Yeah, exactly. And if I can get the heck out of the way, then that imposter goes away because now I'm leaning into who they are and what they're capable of and getting the skills that I need. So my work now is focusing on what skills do I need to pull the potential out of other people, myself included, and my kids and my wife included. But like, that's the key. Pull out that potential, and the imposter goes away because it's not about me.
When did your imposter syndrome disappear, or when did it dissipate? Like a specific story.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I would say one of the first times that I did an interview about my framework, the SAGE framework, and I talked to people about it, and I heard that comment, went, wow, that's really good. That was when I went, I think I've made it, because it was something that I created. It was something that I believed in, that I didn't steal from anybody. It was my intellectual property, if you will. And people went, wow, I get it. That makes a lot of sense. I want to use that. And I went, okay, I've got it. I've made it somewhere here with something that's valuable to other people. And that was probably about a year in or so. Maybe let's just be fair to myself, probably a year and a half. Right. So for the last 3 years, I've been able to deal with the imposter in a different way. And what I mean by that is, if I'm not feeling like an imposter, I'm not doing my job well. Right. I was just asked to be part of this workshop thing where I'm going to present on a particular topic and a bunch of people are going to hear it. It's going to be evergreen content. That makes me feel a little bit nervous, like a little bit of an imposter. Can I really offer that? Yes, I can, but I still feel like a little bit of an imposter. But if that ever goes away, then I'm in the wrong room. I'm in the wrong place because I'm not pushing myself hard enough. So there needs to be these kind of sharp edges of feeling like an imposter, but not the long sword or long knife of it going all the way through you where you always feel like that. That's not the place to be.
Right. Are there any leaders or entrepreneurs that you looked up to throughout your transition into working for somebody and then working for yourself that inspired you to make the change?
Yeah, so I would say 3 come to mind really quickly. My dad, because he started his business when my sister was born and put himself into debt on purpose, and then has grown his business to a multi-million-dollar. Or he grows oranges, so he's a farmer. So multi-million-dollar orange business, right? From zero really to multi-million-dollar orange business with hundreds and hundreds of acres of oranges that they farm and grow and ship and sell and all that. So that's a big deal. Then that mentor that I mentioned in the men's mentoring program, his name is Jack, and he mentored me for 9 years, and he successfully ran several businesses and poured into my life, not only business-wise, but emotionally, spiritually, in very deep ways. It fundamentally changed my life hugely. And then when it comes to people that I don't know super well, but were really impacted me, I would say, I don't know if you know the name John Maxwell or not, but John Maxwell is a leadership guru or whatever. And I started to read his books, and I attended a seminar, or it's more of like a week-long event, for lack of a better term. And that was a big catalyst for me opening my business. If I hadn't attended that, I wouldn't have had the belief and the skills and tools that I do have now. So those 3 men would be the ones for sure.
Where do you see yourself taking your project? How big do you want to grow this?
Yeah. Well, my stated vision is to help thousands of business owners help thousands of business owners shift their mindsets and habits to transform their lives, right? To become the leaders they are meant to be. So that's the stated vision. And that came to me. I didn't come up with it. That was something that was given to me, so was Sage, which was really cool. But where that's going to go is this book, obviously, is a big chunk of that. I have a course that's a big piece of that. But ultimately, what I want to do is create events, Sage leadership events, where leaders from around the country, around the world come together and they listen to keynote speakers and get introduced to the powerful aspects of self-awareness, accountability, the growth mindset, and empowerment mindset, and bring people together. So I'm going to launch one of those next year because I'll have the book in place and various other things in place. And then I have an app that'll launch in about 2 weeks that I want. It's an app that helps you track your own personal growth, allows you to journal about it, but also gives you a score in your own personal growth. And so that I want to have, hopefully thousands of users in there that are shifting their mindsets because they're journaling. There's so much power in writing about what's going on with you and reflecting on certain behaviors consistently. Do it for 90 days and your life fundamentally changes. So those things I see as fulfilling the vision of transforming thousands of lives ultimately.
That's extraordinary.
And yeah, I'm pumped. I'm super excited about it,
So what's the most important realization that you made within your life, either before your business or during the process, that created the success for you?
Most important, I would say, I might have to give you two, but the first one is I am capable of doing this, right? I am capable of doing this, but I cannot do it without the support of dozens of people. Like I need that support, and not because I'm needy or anything, but because I literally don't have the intelligence to run my website. I don't have the intelligence to do my taxes appropriately or the best that they could be done. I don't have the wherewithal to have the courage to do certain things. And I need someone to kick me in the butt and move me forward, right? So I'm capable of doing these things and I believe in myself, but I need other people to remind me of that and push me along in the process. So it's back to people again. There's no like specific strategy for me, but if you go through Sage, it's that become self-aware, I'm capable, get the accountability, remember to remind yourself of that capability, maintain a mindset of growth to know that you reach this certain level and don't plateau, continue to grow, and then surround yourself with people that can empower you to move and move them, right? So it's an embodiment of that framework.
My next question was what the acronym stands for, but
Yeah.
you just told us.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, to give a little bit better picture of what that is so people can literally picture something, Sage is like a leadership house. And if you imagine self-awareness is the foundation of that house, we cannot lead well unless we're self-aware. It's not possible. You have to have that foundation. Once you have that foundation, and as you continue to reinforce that foundation, then you can have some accountability. And accountability is the nails that holds that leadership house together. Without accountability, that leadership house is going to fall on itself, crush the people within it, and crush you as well. And we know a bunch of stories of, unfortunately, that happening, where the accountability fell out and things were crushed. Now, that's an ethical thing. Other times, I'm just talking about the little things that need to get done, right? Being true to your word, following through, staying accountable to a high standard, that type of stuff. The G is growth, which is the walls and the roof of your leadership house. Any home, if you watch the life of a home over time, most of them get remodeled in some way, shape, or form. The same is true for leadership. We need to remodel and adjust our leadership to fit the context of the people we're leading, the context of the industry we're in, that type of thing. And then empowerment is the windows and doors. So this is where people get to see into your leadership and walk through that door and join and be led by you. But it's also the windows and doors to look out, right? So if you're truly a Sage leader, you empower people. And that eventually leads to some people leaving, but you want that to happen because you know you're holding them back, just like I was held back. If it hadn't have been for the opportunity to start my own business, I fortunately saw the grass. I saw the grass was green on the other side. And so I took that step. I want the same thing to happen for the people that I lead and the people that are Sage leaders, to empower those folks to go. So
that's really creative and powerful way of putting all this together.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, you said you thought about this yourself. That's really good.
Yeah, this came to me for real. I was a few months into the business and frustrated about that I didn't have my own tool. I didn't have my own thing because I wanted to have my own thing I could do whatever I wanted to with. When you're held back, your advisor, so there's some stuff that you're held back on just because of the industry. And I didn't want that for me. And so I was thinking about what's an acronym. I love acronyms. So what's an acronym I could use? And I woke up one morning at 3 a.m. and a voice, I think it was God talking to me, but a voice that said self-awareness. And that was it. That was the word, but that was the word I needed to create the rest of the acronym. So I jumped out of bed, ran into my kitchen, and from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m., I started writing out the beginning of what is now Sage. And the acronym came together. At first, it was like ages or whatever. It didn't make sense. And then I finally saw, oh, Sage, like the plant, like a wise person, like green, cool. And then it went from there. So it was really, really neat. So I really can't take full credit for the idea or how it's come about by any means.
What legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, the vision legacy. Thousands of people's lives changed because if I can get access to that business owner and help them transform the way they lead and transform their hearts, they're going to impact thousands, if not tens of thousands of other people because they're leading teams themselves. And I can't access those teams. I just can't. I'm one person. But if I impact 1,000 business owners and they each impact 10 people, wow. All of a sudden we're at 10,000. You get it to 100 quickly and so on and so forth. So,
and then those people empower others and it just keeps going.
Yep. And that's legacy. That's generational impact. Because that's the thing I want to do. I don't want to be flash in the pan. Generational impact of people knowing those 4 pieces, right? That I shared, Leadership House.
So when is your book coming out again?
So I will be launching probably the start of next week, maybe earlier, but probably the 5th of September. So it'll be launching. It won't be available until the end of September, but hard copy versions of it will be available. I'll sign them. People can buy those. I'll sign them and leave a note for people. You could buy a course as well that reinforces the content in the book and gives you kind of hacks and tips that I couldn't put in the book because there's too much dang information. But yeah, we're talking next week. So crazy.
I'd love to get a copy of your book.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. So finally, what causes do you care about most?
Yeah, this could be controversial. So there's 2 I really care about a lot. I love Jesus. And so that's the number 1 cause for me. That's what I care about is that. And I don't press that on to my clients, but we'll talk about it if they want to talk about it. So that's the number 1 cause for me. Number 2 is really the vision. It's what changing people's lives, not me. I don't change people's lives. I can't do that. People change their own lives, but if I can be a catalyst. So those are the 2 causes. And if Jesus happens to be wrapped up into the second part where people's lives are changed because of him, then I'm all the more for it. But those are the big causes for me.
So how big of a player has religion been in pushing you past what you thought were boundaries and potential?
Fundamental. Every Monday, about starting in July of last year, I started doing a Monday morning, what I call CEO meeting. And what that means is from 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., I just meet with God. I pray, have a conversation with him about the business, ask questions, and I hear answers, not verbally, not vocally, I guess you could say, but I get answers. And sometimes they're in the form of a thought. Sometimes they're in the form of a circumstance, but I get answers. So fundamentally that has played a huge role as of late. But also just the people that I know that have that perspective as well. And the people that don't. So the people that don't have that perspective, but they have their own, and I've been able to connect with them deeply without bringing religion in, right? And be able to spiritually connect with them deeply and respect them and where they're coming from on that. That has been really formative as well. So this business wouldn't exist if it weren't for the interjection of God into it. There's no way.
Well, you have a very holistic vision, and it's a no-brainer why some people would work with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So finally, what's a message you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, we haven't touched on this too much, but obviously, the Sage House. The thing about the Sage House that is, I don't want to say it's at the center of it, but it's fundamental. It's something that coaches do all the time. Well, good ones. They ask questions. And if I'm talking to leaders, anybody for that matter, spend more time asking questions than you provide answers. And I'm doing all that right now. I'm just providing answers. So I'm a hypocrite in this moment, but spend a ton of time asking questions. And if you want a ratio, when you're in a normal conversation with somebody, 60-40, listen and ask questions 60% of the time and listen and respond 40. And if you're in a leadership role where you don't have to be directing someone in that moment, 75-25, 75% of the time. So what does that break down? 45 seconds out of a minute or 45 minutes out of an hour, you are listening and asking good questions. And then the other 15 minutes, you might be saying some things.
Because when you're coaching someone to push them in the right direction, they have to make the realization on their own. You can tell them, this is what you have to do, and still won't do it until they realize it on their own.
100%. I mean, I record some of my calls, and I've noticed that basically I talk between 11 and 13 minutes on the calls. That's it. The rest of the time, it's them answering my questions or diving deeply into whatever exercise that is suggested, And I have noticed also the more I talk, the less they get out of it. The more I ask good questions and they dive into those questions, the more they get out of it. And we got to do that for ourselves too. Ask ourselves those really good questions that make us reflect. That's going to make a huge difference for us. So I would say questions. How can you become a better question asker? That's going to make a huge difference for people.
Kyle, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. I think this is a very, very powerful episode, and I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ian. I appreciate it.
No problem. Well, we'll talk soon in the upcoming weeks. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on, and have a great week.
Yeah, quick question. Do I have permission to put your email on my book list just to send you an email about it?
Please
okay,
do.
Cool. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You got it. Bye-bye.